Chapter 8 of the White Linen Nurse. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The White Linen Nurse by Eleanor Hallowell Abbott. Chapter 8. For any real adventure except dying, June is certainly a most auspicious month. Indeed, it was on the very first rain-green, rose-red morning of June that the White Linen Nurse sallied forth upon her extremely hazardous adventure of marrying the senior surgeon and his naughty little cripple daughter. The wedding was at noon in some kind of a grey granite church, and the senior surgeon was there, of course, and the necessary witnesses. But the little crippled girl never turned up at all, owing, it proved later, to a more than usually violent wrangle with whomever addressed her concerning the general advisability of sporting turquoise-coloured stockings with her brightest little purple dress. The senior surgeon's stockings, if you really care to know, were grey, and the senior surgeon's suit was grey, and he looked altogether very huge and distinguished, and no more strikingly unhappy than any bridegroom looks in a grey granite church. And the White Linen Nurse, no longer now truly a White Linen Nurse, but just an ordinary, everyday, silken cloth lady of any colour she chose, wore something rather coaty and grand and bluish, and was distractingly pretty, of course, but most essentially unfamiliar, and just a tiny bit awkward and bony-wristed looking, as even an admiral is apt to be on his first day out of uniform. Then, as soon as the wedding ceremony was over, the bride and groom went to a wonderful green and gold café all built of marble and lined with music, and had a little lunch. What I really mean, of course, is that they had a very large lunch, but didn't eat any of it. Then, in a taxicab just exactly like any other taxicab, the White Linen Nurse drove home alone to the senior surgeon's great gloomy house to find her brand-new stepdaughter still screaming over the turquoise-coloured stockings. And the senior surgeon in a Canadian-bound train, just exactly like any other Canadian-bound train, started off alone, as usual on his annual June spree. Please don't think for a moment that it was the senior surgeon who was responsible for the general eccentricities of this amazing wedding day. No, indeed. The senior surgeon didn't want to be married the first day of June. He said he didn't. He growled he didn't. He snarled he didn't. He swore he didn't. And when he finished saying and growling and snarling and swearing, and looked up at the White Linen Nurse for confirmation of his opinion, the White Linen Nurse smiled perfectly amiably and said, "Yes, sir." Then the senior surgeon gave a great gasp of relief, and announced resonantly, "Well, it's all settled then. We'll be married some time in July, after I get home from Canada." And when the White Linen Nurse kept on smiling perfectly amiably, and said, "Oh, no, sir! Oh, no, thank you, sir! It wouldn't seem exactly legal to me to be married any other month but June," then the senior surgeon went absolutely dumb with rage that this mere chit of a girl, and a trained nurse too, should dare to thwart his personal and professional convenience. But the White Linen Nurse just drooped her pretty blonde head, and blushed and blushed and blushed, and said, "I was only marrying you, sir, to accommodate you, sir, and if June doesn't accommodate you, I'd rather go to Japan with that monodaic somnambulism case. It's very interesting, and it sails June 2nd. Then, "Oh, hell with the monodaic somnambulism case!" the senior surgeon would protest. Really, it took the senior surgeon quite a long while to work out the three special arguments that should best protect him, he thought, from the horridly embarrassing idea of being married in June.
"But you can't get ready so soon,"
he suggested at last with real triumph. "You've no idea how long it takes a girl to get ready to be married. There are so many people she has to tell, and everything." "There's never but two that she's got to tell, or bust," conceded the white linen nurse with perfect candor. "Just the woman she loves the most, and the woman she hates the worst. I'll write my mother to-morrow, but I told the superintendent of nurses yesterday." "The deuce you did!" snapped the senior surgeon. Almost caressingly the white linen nurse lifted her big blue eyes to his. "Yes, sir," she said, "and she looked as sick as a young undertaker. I can't imagine what ailed her." "Eh?" choked the senior surgeon. "But the house now," he hastened to contend. "The house now needs a lot of fixing over. It's all run down. It's all everything. We never in the world could get it into shape by the 1st of June. For heaven's sake, now that we've got money enough to make it right, let's go slow and make it perfectly right." A little nervously the white linen nurse began to fumble through the pages of her memorandum book. "I've always had money enough to go slow and make things perfectly right," she confided a bit wistfully. "Never in all my life have I had a pair of boots that weren't guaranteed, or a dress that wouldn't wash, or a hat that wasn't worth at least 3 repressings. What I was hoping for now, sir, was that I was going to have enough money so that I could go fast and make things wrong if I wanted to, so that I could afford to take chances, I mean. Here's this wall paper now." Tragically she pointed to some figuring in her notebook. "It's got peacocks on it, life size, in a queen's garden, and I wanted it for the dining room. Maybe it would fade. Maybe we'd get tired of it. Maybe it would poison us. Slam it on one week and slash it off the next. I wanted it just because I wanted it, sir. I thought maybe while you were way off in Canada." Eagerly the senior surgeon jerked his chair a little nearer to his fiancée's. "Now, my dear girl," he said, "that's just what I want to explain. That's just what I want to explain. Just what I want to explain. Explain," he continued a bit falteringly. "Yes, sir," said the white linen nurse. Very deliberately the senior surgeon removed a fleck of dust from one of his cuffs. "All this talk of yours about wanting to be married the same day I start off on my Canadian trip," he contended. "Why, it's all damned nonsense." "Yes, sir," said the white linen nurse. Very conscientiously the senior surgeon began to search for a fleck of dust on his other cuff. "Why, my dear girl," he persisted, "it's absurd. It's outrageous. Why, people would hoot at us. Why, they'd think—" "Yes, sir," said the white linen nurse. "Why, my dear girl," sweated the senior surgeon, "even though you and I understand perfectly well the purely formal, businesslike conditions of our marriage, we must at least, for sheer decency's sake, keep up a certain semblance of marital conventionality before the world. Why, if we were married at noon the 1st day of June, as you suggest, and I should go right off alone as usual on my Canadian trip, and you should come back alone to the house, why, people would think that I didn't care anything about you." "But you don't," said the white linen nurse serenely. "Why, they'd think," choked the senior surgeon, "they'd think you were trying your darndest to get rid of me." "I am," said the white linen nurse complacently. With a muttered ejaculation the senior surgeon jumped to his feet and stood glaring down at her. Quite ingeniously the white linen nurse met and parried the glare. "A gentleman and a red-haired kitty and a great walloping house all at once. It's too much," she confided genially. "Thank you just the same, but I'd rather take them gradually. First of all, sir, you see, I've got to teach the little kitty to like me. And then there's a green tiled paper with floppity seagulls on it that I want to try for the bathroom. And," ecstatically she clapped her hands together, "Oh, sir, there are such loads and loads of experiments I want to try while you are off on your spree!"